Hello and welcome to another Tinto Talks Dev Diary video. This time we're going to be talking about logistics. Last week we had a talk about how the combat system was going to work, and of course, logistics are a part of warfare, and they just kind of didn't play much of a part in EU4. So hopefully we're going to be getting something a little bit more in depth, a little bit more meaty that we can interact with. So hopefully we're going to get something great. If you would like to keep yourself informed and up to date with everything coming out of Tinto, then feel free to throw me a subscription. That would be fantastic for me, and you get to stay informed. So it is a win-win. Now, without further ado, let's stop looking at horses' faces and look at the Dev Diary instead. Hello, everyone, to another Tinto Talks. The happy Wednesday, indeed, the happy. It is the happiest of days of the week for sure. Day of the week where we discuss details about our super secret game with the codename Project Caesar. This week we'll delve. Here he is with that delve word again. Are we sure that Johan isn't an AI? Into the glorious world of logistics and sieges. You all know the saying: amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. So, leader assignment. First of all, one thing we've added is what we refer to as commission time. If a character has been assigned to lead an army or navy, you cannot remove him from the command before at least 12 months have passed. This removes the teleport a leader around the world exploit, and also makes it more of a choice on how to deploy your characters. I like this. This is something that is fine by me. Definitely, you can exploit it in EU4. I don't think I would say it is an exploit, though. It's just kind of the consequences of not having any kind of delay in how you deploy characters or deploy your generals and your admirals. This works for me, though. Absolutely fine. Reinforcing regiments. While your levies do not reinforce, your regular regiments will attempt to reinforce if you still have manpower and get access to the goods that they require. A regiment that is part of an army that is retreating, is in combat, loaded on a ship, or currently taking attrition losses will not be able to reinforce. Currently taking attrition losses is a big one here, because if you think to EU4, say late game, and you have an army that is within your own lands, say you've got a bunch of dudes drilling, and the supply limit is 80, and you've maybe got 82 dudes, you're taking probably 0.1% attrition, which is kind of meaningless. And if you're at full manpower, you would just eat it. Like, it's not costing you all that much money. It's costing you no manpower because you're gaining more per month than you're costing yourself by, taking that attrition. And it's really not a problem. But here, if you're taking attrition, you're not able to reinforce those units, so they will deplete until they are below the supply limit, and I guess then they'll reinforce, and then they'll take attrition again, and then they'll stop reinforcing, and then etc. But yeah, I know I like this. I like this a lot. It means, especially for sieges, that's going to be kind of huge. It's also, regiment is part of an army that is retreating, so you lose a battle, and you in EU4 are able to reinforce that army while it's retreating. Especially good if you are retreating, say, on the 29th of a month, and you're retreating a short distance, you get in the reinforcement tick, then you put them straight back into a battle. It's hard to cycle armies in EU4 because of morale, but it is possible in certain scenarios, and this really makes that a lot more difficult. Load on a ship is the same as EU4, but yeah, these two are the big ones. And, if you are taking attrition, this is whenever you're in an enemy territory, right? If you're sieging something, you are taking attrition. If you're taking attrition, you're not reinforcing. So sieges can absolutely fail if you don't bring enough men. That is kind of huge. A regiment can only reinforce in your owned locations and in a location owned by someone you are fighting a war together with when that location is not currently not occupied. So you can reinforce in your allies' locations as well. That is fine. I wonder, can you reinforce in a location that is occupied by you? Because this is owned, right? Your own owned locations owned by allies. but only when that location is not occupied. So if your enemy has sieged their fortress, you are de-sieging their fortress, you will not be able to reinforce on that. In EU4, you also wouldn't take attrition on that, but I wonder if that is you're going to be able to take attrition there. So current strength and reinforce here. This is a tooltip. This is not the UI. This is a tooltip UI, which I think it looks very basic, but with it being a tooltip, it's actually got quite a lot going on for being a tooltip. So I'm more pleased now than I was when I was looking at the previous one. Like last week's Dev Diary, I saw a UI element, an image that I wasn't fond of, but I was informed that that was actually a tooltip, and for being a tooltip, it's fine. Anyway, strength of reinforcements here. So strength is 84, maximum strength is 100, so they've got a bunch of people to reinforce there. They're getting 5 extra dudes every single month, and the speed is base and access to goods. Okay, fair enough. Army movement. When people talk about logistics, it's usually intrinsically linked to the movement of armies, and movement armies in Project Caesar has some changes in it compared to what you may be used to. One thing that's taken inspiration from is the Hearts of Iron series, is the fact that when an army is moving, they will slowly be losing morale. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. This creates the natural flow of armies marching and then resting, and not just marching across Europe and immediately joining a battle. Like the march has had no impact at all. I like this a lot. That's very interesting. That means if you are, say, invading a neighbor, and you know that their armies are currently on the other side of their country, fighting in, say you're England, right? And you're going to launch an invasion of France. France is currently at war with Spain. All of France's armies are currently in the south of France or in Spain fighting that war. You land in northern France, start sieging, and sure, if this was EU4, France, obviously with their anti-player bias, would turn their armies around, march north, and kick your ass. But that's not going to be really as feasible here if they're losing morale based on every tile that they are moving. When they reach northern France, they're going to have to then sit and wait to regain their morale before they engage you. That is a very interesting facet. I am not a Hearts of Iron player, so I don't have any real experience with that system, but I like that idea a lot. That is really cool. We also added the fact that if that an army is beyond a certain size, they will be marching slower, where the size is based on the total frontage it's fielding. Okay, larger armies marching slower, also really cool. That does definitely put a dent in the Doom stack style, which is something I was worried about when we were learning about how battles work and how battles will take a shorter amount of time. I was worried that that would encourage doom stacking. But if larger armies move slower, then doom stacking maybe not as much of an issue as I maybe feared. Good. While you can attach units to other units, this makes the attached units move slower, as military organization in the late medieval era was rather limited. In later ages, you get advances that reduce this penalty significantly, completely limiting it in the Age of Revolutions. And speaking particularly about that age, we have an advance there that makes multiple core combat more interesting, making them to march the sound of the guns. Making them to march the sound of the guns. Okay. Is that the name of the advance? Yes, it is. Okay. Unlocks march to the sound of gun. Is that maybe like force march? Something like that? The advance allows an army to automatically react if another army of ours is in an adjacent location, enters combat, and then quickly... Holy! This is exactly what I asked for in the previous video. Holy hell! That is... Okay. Alright. I am... So I originally had thought maybe that could be one of the army automations, right? That could be one of the things that you set an AI, give them an objective of go reinforce his army if they are engaged in combat. But if that's just an advance that everyone can use and you don't need to use AI, that's awesome. That's so cool. Though it needs to be somewhat limited. Because if I have say 4 armies that are adjacent in to each other, and one of them enters combat, do I want the other 2 to instantly start marching in, or do I want them to delay it so to kind of get that morale feeding kind of thing going on? That's I think maybe I'd like it to be delayed just a tad. Maybe. Guess which is my favorite advance from this part of the Age of Revolution Street. Let's have a look at what we got here. So, advanced howitzers, artillery bonus versus fort. That's cool. We got field artillery for more tactics. East Indiaman in Lux. East Indiaman, that's a different type of ship. Renunciation of privateering gives anti-piracy warfare modifier plus 50% and chance for pirates minus 0.5. Got Napoleonic warfare, ignore zone of control. I hate this. I hate that it exists. I like forts and zone of control. I think they are really good for the game. I hate that this exists. I kind of wish it was just removed entirely. I really don't like that this exists. This is bad. Forward zone of control is good game design. I'm sorry. And having an advance, even if it is very late in the game, that completely nullifies the effort you've gone into to fortify your country. Not happy. Not happy that this is here. Esprit de corps movement speed bonus when attached to another unit. Nice. And combat speed as well. We've got global embassies for diplomatic range. Conscription center unlocks a new building. Heavy frigate unlocks a new ship. Mass training reinforcement speed 10%. And then march to the sound of the guns unlocks march to the sound of the guns. Cool. Yeah, I don't like this at all. This is terrible. Food and armies. Now, you are wondering, and that is fine, but an army cannot march on an empty stomach. It's entirely true. Each army has food it needs to consume every month, else they will start deserting and dying. If you run out of food during a siege, you're basically forced to abandon the siege very quickly as your army evaporates. Okay, yes, food being attached to armies. Are we going to get the imperative situation where you don't take attrition when you are in enemy territory as long as you have food, as long as you have supplies? If that's the case, then it doesn't matter so much that you can't reinforce in enemy territory. As long as you have your food that you're, supplying your army with, then you're not going to be starving taking attrition that way. Okay. Standard infantry regiment can carry a few months of rations with them, but when they're gone, they're gone. Here, the new category units comes into place. One major type of the auxiliary category is the logistics units, which can carry far more food than any other type of unit. So we got requirements for constructing it, requirements for maintaining it, yeah, it's got 50 dudes in it, very little combat power. Morale damage taken extra, makes sense. This is very much looking like how Imperator's unit modifiers work. But yeah, it's got 6 storage per unit. We got 0.1 consumption per unit. So it still consumes its own food, but less so, I guess. Maybe bad at fighting, but they'll provide some food is, that's what we're there for. That's what they're there for. So how do you get food for your armies then? Well, if they're stationed in your own locations, they will take food from the local provincial supplies. So you sometimes have to be careful about where you station your armies. Yeah, this was an issue in Imperator as well, so as not to cause the local population to starve. If you want to get the food from your allies or countries you have military access with, you need to negotiate a treaty that allows you to take their food supplies. This is not always something every country will accept. Your subject will have no say in this though, as most types of subject give this access implicitly. So I can vassalize somebody, move all my armies there, and make them all starve. I feel like there might be a use for that. But yeah, you can see how much food you have in an army. 8 months worth in that. Maybe we should have more than a single unit of ours. Nailed that. hours. But yeah, 9-step horde militia use 0.9. Okay, so they're all using the same amount of food. They're just carrying different amounts. We know that this, well, if this is the same as this, it carries 6. So if you're carrying 6, then this 13 units are carrying 6 on their, well, almost 6 on their own. Okay. Then impact from attrition. Then there's quantity. I guess this is the country slider going from quantity to quality, and quantity lets you use less food. Okay. Nice. Food supply. When you're at war, you can steal food from an occupied provinces. If you control the capital of a province, you can steal the food from the local populace there to feed your armies. Basically the same as what we have in Imperator. Worked fine there. If your army's in a hostile location where you cannot get local food, you can try to trace access up to 2 locations away through controlled location to get the food. Okay, awesome. So we do have logistics, as in the ability to get food from, like, traveling on a path. It won't go... If you can't reach your own locations at a distance, there are 2 ways to get food to your armies. Is there a way to increase this distance? I wonder. That would be kind of cool. Maybe an advance to increase this distance. But anyway, there's a supply depot within that range. Your army will draw food from it. A supply depot can be created by any army, and you can deposit food until its maximum storage capabilities. Any army within range can withdraw from it. Any army can gather food from their homeland and deposit it into the depot if there's space. There are advances increasing the capacity of your depots as well. So, what I'm thinking is you are sieging a enemy's fortress. You're sieging enemy's fortress in a place where they can't get past you into your land. Say there's some choke points or whatever. You build a supply depot 2 tiles back from that. And then even if this siege is going to take basically forever, you can have supply runners of these auras or camp suppliers, these guys, just bringing food from your land to this supply depot basically constantly. So you can keep a siege going infinitely with that. That's kind of cool. I like that. I wonder if a supply depot can also access food from 2 locations away. So I can have a chain of supply depots going through an enemy's occupied land. That would be kind of cool as well. If supply depots can pull from food if they're empty from 2 tiles away. That would be... I like that idea as well that I've just come up with. And I hope that may be added, because I like that idea. You also have the capacity of the navies to provide logistics support as well. Oh, thank please. This is something that we were asking for in Imperator that just never got added. There are 2 unit abilities can be done for them. Gathering food and distributing food. Gathering food will take food from any adjacent province you own, and your fleet can store food depending on the food carrying capacity of the ships. Distributing food allows the navy to act like a floating supply depot for your armies to get food from. This is something we asked for in Imperator, but we never ended up getting. The ability to supply your armies with your navies. It's something that Alexander the Great used to great effect in his conquest of Persia. His army was supplied by his navy floating alongside it, going down, the Levant, and I believe it also helped out in the... not Red Sea. Is it the Red Sea? The one where, like, just south of Persia. That one. I forget what that sea's called. But yeah, no, that is really, really awesome. That is so cool. I like that a lot. While we do understand that not every player may enjoy caring about such logistics, those you can assign logistic objectives to supporting armies and navies. It will solve it for your main armies. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Yes. This is what AI should be for, right? This is what automating your own armies should be for. Shouldn't be for, I don't like warfare, therefore I'm going to just put everything on AI control and I don't want to think about this, I want to do other parts of the game. That would be the bad use of AI. I'm sure it'll still be possible if you are crazy enough to want that, but it's just whatever. Where AI is going to be great is this kind of thing. Deal with my logistics. Just deal with my logistics with this army that is made purely of these camp followers. Set them on AI mode to solve this issue for me. Even like I think that is just a good system, a good idea, and a good use for AI. No, I love this. I love this a lot. This is awesome. Also, steal food from your enemy in a battle when they're defeated. Love that. As a defeated army cannot protect their entire baggage train if they try to escape. I hope you can also steal other things from the army. Armaments, for example, gunpowder. Is gunpowder a thing? I believe it is a thing. Weapons and guns, that kind of thing. I hope you can capture a small amount of that as well. That would be really, really cool. Sieges and occupations. Now let's turn to the second part of this talk where we talk about how sieges will work. First of all, there are two different types to talk about here, as not all locations are equal. Locations without any fortifications will not have any long siege, but an army with a single full-strength regiment is enough to take it in a few weeks. Makes sense? Location with some sort of fortifications requires a full siege, though. Basically, if you played EU4, this is what you will understand. Unless you played EU4 way back when, before Art of War, and never picked it up since, then this will be new to you. But yeah, no, this is basically, if you don't have a fort, it finishes in a single siege tick, and if it does have a fort, then you have to siege it. We have the siege progress in Plock. I think it's in Poland. Next siege phase in 18 days. They're 19 days long due to reasons, including literacy. Okay, then. Fair enough. Having an offensive societal value is not ideal to defend your sieges, evidently. Food has a significant impact on how you plan your military campaigns, as it affects how long you can sustain a siege. The key thing here, and this is something I'm a big fan of, is that sieges are gambles. You don't know when a fort will fall. Okay. Interesting. And now, with the fact that if you run out of food, you will run the risk of actually losing and failing a siege. About every 30 days, there is a chance for something to happen in sieges, with the chance of it getting worse for defenders or another month of holding out. So this kind of feels a bit like in EU4, right? This is technically true of EU4 as well. You know it will fall eventually, as long as you have enough troops and enough manpower to continue to sustain the attrition. So I guess this is just the same as EU4. Here we got the dice roll, we got disease outbreak, status quo, supply shortage, food shortage, water shortage, defenders don't surrender. This is, I believe, identical to EU4. It won't surrender immediately, but maybe we can avoid disease among our troops. Would be nice. With these changes, the assault is now a more potentially viable option, as either you win and save time and food, or you fail the assault and have taken casualties and thus preserving your food supply longer. That is incredibly cynical, but okay. While besieging a coastal location, it's not only important to blockade it, making the siege faster, it can also at the same time supply your army with food. That's true. Navies seem to be much more important this time around. Just from what I've seen, just from this logistics thing. As the map is more granular than previous games we've made, warfare could turn into a massive slog to manually siege or occupy every single location. Now, while we have the automation systems, it would still not be very fun. Project Caesar has two different ways to automatically gain control over several locations at once. First of all, if you take a fort, all locations in its zone of control will start changing control to you. Okay, this is new. I like this. This is also valid for forts owned by an enemy, if we have taken it. So, okay, so this is basically you retake a fort that the enemy has controlled, and then the control you'll just deoccupy. So this is the same as EU4. This first part is brand new. If you take a fort, all locations zone control will start changing to you. Valid for forts owned by an enemy that we have taken, if we have taken it. At the same time, this kind of feels like just repeating yourself. Anyway, secondly, if you take the capital, you start gaining control over all locations in that province. Of course, this is blocked by hostile armies and forts. So this is, again, similar to in Imperative Rome. Every province, every, clump of locations will have a provincial capital. You occupy that single location, that single provincial capital, then every province in that area, in that province, will flip to your control. It works well in Imperative. Hopefully it works well here as well. Forts blocking it makes sense. Armies blocking it makes sense. As mentioned in previous posts on this forum, we have the zonal control system in Project Caesar as well, but the one with far less complicated rules that was used in Imperative Rome. I don't know. I feel like EU4 had just as simple rules. It just, the AI kind of got to ignore some of them, it feels like. Or maybe I'm wrong and I wasn't understanding the rules. That also could be the case. As you might have noticed earlier, there is an advance in the Age of Revolutions that allows you to ignore zone of control, which I hope is removed from the game. And I think if I'm going to be running multiplayers in EU5, which I will, we will use a mod to remove this. I don't care. This would be terrible. While that may be useful to chase down enemy armies, you often want to take forts and cities anyway to get your logistics sorted out. Sure, still don't like it. Recruitment options. One thing that has not been mentioned yet about the military is that we have different recruitment methods for regiments, where you can either rush the training so a regiment can be ready much quicker but at far less strength, or spend more time in training and start with a higher experience. That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. That's very nice. Also, I like this artwork. It's also very nice. Next week, we'll talk about ships and some aspects of the naval part of the game. Awesome. Very much looking forward to that. Like I said earlier, the naval gameplay looks to be much more expanded in multiple different ways. Like we know about maritime presence being pretty important. Anytime that things like this are brought up, like for example the comment about coastal forts, where the community, some people in the community were like, well, this looks like pretty useless building, and Johan responded by saying it's one of the most important. So navies look to be way more important in EU5 than it was in EU4. So this is looking very, very nice. I'm looking forward to seeing that. As well, we know that there are some advances, if we scroll up, that will just add individual extra ships, heavy frigates, East Indiamen. So, yeah, Navy's looking like important parts. So next week we're gonna get some nice juicy information, and if you wanna, if you wanna be, ready for that information and get notified about that information, hit the sub button and ring the bell so you get notified on it, so you don't miss it. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, what are my final thoughts? I think all of this looks incredible, save for Napoleonic Warfare. Everything else looks incredible. This looks like a straight upgrade over EU4, which had effectively zero logistics. An upgrade over Imperative Rome, which has had the best logistics that I've played with. Again, I don't play Hearts of Iron. I know it has a logistics system. I can't comment on how good it is. Maybe in the comment section below you can explain how, even Hearts of Iron 4 shits all over this or something. I don't know. I don't care. This looks way better than what I've played with previously, so I am happy with what I am seeing. I especially love the idea of being able to get food from several locations away. That's really cool to me. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing, and if you do too, then let me know in the comments what part of the Dev Diary you liked. Is there anything you disliked, actually? Let me know down there. And I will see you on Friday for another Tinto Maps of the Maghreb. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.